Hello and welcome back to the second part of the brake caliper rebuild. On today's video we're going to be making good this caliper and then getting lacquer on the carriers and the calipers. Stay tuned. Right, so today the main goal is to sand this back here because there was a little bit of flaking on the actual corner here, and because it's something you're going to see if you look through the wheel. That's something I want to address, so we're going to have to sand that back and get a little bit more paint on there, and then it's time to lacquer them, let the lacquer dry for an hour or so it's not completely soft, and then we might be able to actually start rebuilding the caliper itself. Right, so here we have the caliper that needs readdressing, so basically just going to use some 320 grit sandpaper to buff that back down so it's nice and smooth. Now the 320 weren't really working, so I changed to a 400 with a little bit of water. Right, so that's all now sanded back, that's all smooth again. It's been done with 400 wet and dry, so now we can rehang that up and give that another coat of paint. Obviously that's going to take a little time to cure. It's not the whole caliper, so I'm not too worried, so we will still be able to put a clear coat on the others today. It's probably not the way you should do it, but like I've said many times before, I'm not too fussed about the cosmetics of these. Obviously if they were the Porsche ones I'd be a bit more thorough, but they're not. They're just standard GTI calipers. They're not going to be on there for very long. As long as they look red, that's all I really care about. So the next thing with this, we've got to then wipe it down again with some paint preparation wipes, and then hang it back up, spray it, let that cure. While that's curing, we can get a clear coat on the other ones. Right, so this just needs touching up here on this front. We'll do that quickly. I noticed that I did miss some stuff on the bottom of these carriers right there, so I'll give them a quick spray as well. I'm running low on paint, so I might have to go and get some more. But it should be enough to finish this off. I'll be right for that for the minute. A little bit there I missed. And on the one just off camera. Now the mating surfaces where the bolts go through, like here on this like hole here, or this one, they do have paint on them. I will be sanding that off just so it's a better mating surface and you don't want any lumps and bumps when you're talking stuff up. Yeah, so we'll let this cure a little while. be fair, that dried quite quickly, so it is quite warm in here today. It is raining, but it is quite warm, and the humidity is quite high as well, so this stuff's just drying like anything. But I think we should be able to clear coat this one. I'm not going to do the standard practice of sand it down, dry it off. I'm just going to put the clear coat straight on the paint. If it comes off, it comes off. Again, it's just cosmetic, I'm not really fussed. Right, so these carriers have been curing for a good 8 or 9 hours now. They're ready to be sprayed with some clear lacquer. It's not high temperature lacquer or anything like that, they don't get that hot. Just protect them from brake dust actually bedding in. So we give them a nice light coat, wait a little while, give them another one. Right, that should be right for a first coat. Just let it dry. I'm not sure how long it takes. I know it's 24 hours for it to cure completely, but I think about an hour or so between coats should be pretty good. Now we can go on to the actual calipers themselves. They've been drying for quite a while. Right, so the calipers have been left overnight. They're ready for a clear coat. So I'm going to first of all do the left hand one and then the right hand one. Right, so that is the left one, clear coated. It's probably not quite hard to tell on camera, but I'll take some close-up photos so you can see the difference. Now I'm going to do the right hand side one, which had the touch up, which is all gone now. That's been sanded back, that's been made good. So now it can have a clear coat. Right, now I'm going to give them a good few hours to dry, come back, do one last coat, and then they should be ready for a rebuild. Right, so we've let them dry for a few hours. As you can see, they are a little bit shinier than they were previously, obviously because of the clear coat. That's obviously not too great still. Looks like there's a little bit of run, but that's on the red paint, not the actual varnish or the clear lacquer. I'm going to give them another coat of lacquer, and then I'm going to rebuild them. They should be alright, like I said, cosmetics don't really matter to me. As long as they're red and they look pretty good under a wheel, that's all I really care about. The Porsches will be the ones I truly will worry about. Let's give it another coat of lacquer and then we can start to rebuild them in the next couple of hours. Right, so that is the third coat on, I believe. Might be the second, might be the third. I don't know, I lost count. So that's on, they're all done, more or less, cosmetically. Just have to rebuild the insides. That's what I'm more worried about, because obviously I don't really care what they look like as long as they stop the car. If they don't stop the car but they look brilliant, then you've got a bit of an issue. So these are done to quite a low standard, I'd say, but they're painted and they're red. That's all I really care about at the moment. The next thing to do is to let them dry again for a couple of hours, and then I'll come back and then I'll rebuild them with brand new seals, dust covers and pistons. Right, so here's a little rundown of what we will be replacing in these calipers. First of all, we'll be replacing them with some brand new, although it doesn't look brand new, it's got all red rubber grease on it because I've test fitted it. Brand new pistons. These are from Autodoc. I like to make sure I've got the right diameter and actual length as well, because it's quite important obviously the diameter is quite important. Also the length of the piston is as well, because if it's too short it won't come out far enough, so then you won't get enough travel on the actual piston to apply the brakes. If it's too long, your brakes will always be on, and you really don't want that. That's going to be dangerous. So we've got 2 brand new pistons, and then I got a rebuild kit from Big Red on eBay. I'll put a link in the description. I should say as well, I got some red rubber grease, some Castrol stuff. This is really good, great for actual rubber applications. I think that's quite cheap. And then in the kit you get 2 dust covers. You get the 2 actual seals that go inside the actual caliper themselves. You do get some grease, but that's silicone grease. I believe that's for the pin sliders, but I'm not entirely sure of them. I believe they are bleed nipple protectors. I need to order some more of them. They're still on their way. And then I've got these. These protect the sliders on the actual carrier. So they're all still. These will be replaced onto the car. But at the moment I don't need these or the actual nipple protectors. So they're going to go back in the bag, along with the silicone grease. All we currently need are these 2 and these 2, the seals and the dust covers, and obviously the cylinders themselves. Right, so here we have one of the freshly painted calipers. It's probably not the best paint job I've ever done, but it's red nonetheless. So now I have to remove all of the stuff that I've put to protect it, starting with the hanger. Just going to get a razor blade and cut that off. Get rid of that. Put up the earbud defender over here, which is used to protect the bleed nipple thread. Literally just comes out. Look, as you can see, that thread is clean, and we can take off this little bit of protection here. Nice flat clean surface again. And finally the piston cover here, so that, as you can see, it's all painted except for in there. Now it has got a little bit rusty in there, but I am going to go through it again with some brake cleaner and a little bit of wet and dry to get it as smooth as I possibly can. So here is some 600. I'm going to get my little stand again, wherever it's gone. My stand just so happens to be a roll of duct tape, but it helps. Actually, you know what? We'll do it about the stand. Now, a little bit of brake cleaner on the wet and dry. Right, so inside the piston is now nice and clean. I've got as much of the dirt as I can. That is the cloth, so it shows you how dirty it still was. Get one final pass. Right, so now we've done that, we can fit one of the seals, a little bit of Castrol red rubber grease. What I do is get some on my finger and I grease up inside the cylinder a little bit. Now this isn't a be all and end all guide, This is how I was trained to do it. You might have been trained in a different manner how to do it, or a different way how to do it. This is the way I was trained to do it, and I've built many a caliper in my time, or rebuilt many a caliper in my time. So always be careful, that's the main thing. Just brakes stop your car from speed 9 times out of 10. So just be careful. If you have any doubt whatsoever about your own skills or the parts you have, don't do it, because you will hurt yourself and other people. Like I've said, this is the way I was trained to do it. Get as much on it as you can. So you're going to get quite messy, so you can wear gloves, but I find it easier to do it with your hands. Anyway, once you've done that, there's 2 grooves inside here. There's the first one and the second one. The first one is for your dust boot. The second one is for this, which is your sealing ring. It seals around the piston itself. So as the piston's going in and out, that stops the brake fluid from squirting past it. It keeps constant pressure on the machine polished face. So it keeps the brake fluid inside the caliper, and the piston can freely move in and out. Yeah, so the first groove is for your dust cover. The second one, which is the larger one, is for your actual sealing ring. So you get that in there. You've got to make sure it's nice and flat and seats in there nicely. Just give it a good coating of red grease. So you might be able to see in there, it's in there, and because they're a square profile, they have to sit in there as round as possible. But they can't, if they're twisted or anything like that, they're not going to seal properly. So you need to make sure they seal correctly if you are doing this yourself. Yeah, a bit more grease. Be very liberal with it. Then once that's all greased up, lay the caliper flat down, get your new piston. I also grease that as well. Right, so I've got the dust boot as low to the bottom of the piston as I possibly can without it falling off, because I'm going to have to seat this before I seat the piston. So lift the caliper up. Best to make sure the dust cover's seated properly, and then you can line up the piston itself and then just wiggle it down and it will snap into itself. There you go, and there you go. That is the piston inside the caliper, all done and ready to be put back on the car, more or less. I think I will give it another coat of lacquer because that has been absolutely ruined, but it's cosmetic again, doesn't really matter. Right, so that is that done. That's the dust cover on, all nice and secure. double checked around the skirt itself to make sure it's in. The piston moves freely. Literally all we have to do is sand off these edges, the mating edges on the bolts, well, they go through here. Get another banjo bolt, get a new bleed nipple, and then they'll be ready to go on the car. Right, so here's the second one. This one's come out a lot better than the previous one. I'm going to move this microfiber out of the way because it didn't really do much help last time. But yeah, look, it's still not great. Cosmetically, it's not brilliant, but that's all you're going to see. That bit there like that. As long as that bit looks nice and shiny, that's all we need to worry about at the moment. But again, I'm going to peel this off. And take out the little bung. And then get to the actual cylinder itself again. Again, that's a little bit rusty, so a bit of brake cleanup. Right, so that is now nice and clean in there. Ready for some red rubber grease. Again, in the first groove and the second groove. And then lube up or grease up the sealing O-ring. Well, it's not an O-ring, it's got a square profile, but the hydraulic seal. Grease that up. Place that in. Then get a little bit of red grease on the bottom edge. Of your piston, sit it like that. Now you want a little bit of grease all over your dust cover to make sure it sits properly. Not too much, not as much as the actual sealing ring itself. You want it to fit over your piston. Bring it down as much as you can. So it's sitting like that. So that way you can flip the caliper like this. get your piston and the dust cover, hold your piston up, seat your dust cover in there nicely, and then you can get your piston seated, wiggle it side to side, you can feel it drop a little bit. And then slowly drop it in. And then you can see it's sealed except for a little corner around here. Oh no, it has sealed itself in. And that is the second one. And that is all done. That is it. That is as much as it takes. Now I'm going to rehang these back up on the hangers, spray them down with brake cleaner and whatnot, and get them clean again. Then I might give them another blast just on the outside of varnish. Right, so that is both calipers now rebuilt, ready to go. I'm going to give them one final wipe down and maybe some more clear lacquer. It won't be going anywhere near this boot. Obviously you really don't want to get paint on that. But anyway, that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching part 1 and part 2 hopefully. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.